That's it. That sounds too generous. Like, that's too much.
Oh, hey, welcome to Kind. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Holly Newson, and I'll be chatting to guests about the times people were kind to them and how that changed things. In this episode, you'll hear how 2 youth workers impacted a whole bunch of lives. By the way, you'll figure things out. Right, let's drop you straight in. My guest today is author, producer and podcast host, Giles Paley-Phillips. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Holly. Lovely to see you.
Thanks so much for joining. So to kick off with, I wanted to ask, what do you think it means to be kind? What does that mean to you?
Oh, it's such a vast question in some ways, isn't it? What does it mean to be kind? I mean, I guess for me, kindness has always been about... well, several things, I guess. It's like allowing other people to be heard and seen, you know, the usual kind of tropes of empathy and compassion. But I think those 2 things, like being heard and seen, is like so vital. And I think particularly at the moment, like when we live in a world where obviously and this is something that I talk about a lot with lots of different people, can't be more connected than we are at the moment, but at the same time so disconnected. You know, we live in a world where like we can literally message anybody any second of the day, anybody as well, like literally anybody, and yet we seem to be so fragmented socially, and even in our like own personal lives, even with like friends and family, like we're not as maybe connected as we once were. So I think like kindness is more vital than I'm going off on a tangent here, by the way. Kindness is more vital than it's ever needed to be. But I do think it is just having that, making some space and time to see and hear people.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of something that we've kind of lost along the way somewhere.
Why do you think we're just less connected to friends and family?
I think we just often neglect those relationships sometimes, and not obviously not everybody, and that I'm generalizing, but I think it is easy to let those things drip away because we're just living in like a world where we're working so much, you know, like whatever kind of work you do, you're kind of always on. My wife's a teacher. She's like constantly working, like even weekends, and like, and you know, it's the half term at the moment when we're recording, and she's like working loads of, you know, so it's like eking out some time with one another is really difficult because there's so much pressure to be doing stuff all the time.
Yeah. And so what everyday kind act has a big impact on you? You know, like someone just dropping you a message just to check in, or someone holding a door, or someone complimenting your outfit. What sort of thing means the most to you in that sense? Yeah,
totally. All those things. I mean, there's a little cafe I go to in the town I live in, Seaford, called Backers, and I go there regularly. It's where I go and do writing. It's just where I go and hang out, I love a cup of coffee. And that's obviously for me like a really lovely kind of amount of time to like lift my dopamine levels, because I get connection, I get coffee, I get to write, so I got all these things. But just sitting in there, and I've met so many amazing people, just having random conversations with people, or overhearing conversations. It's great from a writer's perspective to be able to like hear like different perspectives on life and all that kind of stuff, but actually just having conversations with people that I wouldn't normally necessarily have a conversation with, you know, whatever, you know, just random acts of kindness, like those moments that they're the things that really sort of can be quite long lasting sometimes, you know, like you say, just giving someone some support and encouragement in something they're doing. That's the thing with kindness. It doesn't have to be like a massive act. You know, you don't have to do something life-changing necessarily, but actually something small can be life-changing.
Yeah, completely. So when guests come on the show, I ask them to have a think about 3 times people have done something kind for them. And this was the first thing Giles wanted to share.
Well, like, I've been really lucky that I've had several moments of like real acts of compassion. And I think one that always sticks in my mind is when I must have been around 7 or 8 years old, maybe 9 years old, 8, 9. And I was really into Transformers. So if anyone from the 80s is listening, Transformers, when it was good, obviously they've made films recently which are not good, but Transformers was a big part of my life. Like I used to get the the figures, and I used to watch the cartoon. Anyway, they brought a sticker book out, like a Panini sticker book.
Yeah.
And there was a newsagent's around the corner from our house. And there was like I didn't need that many stickers to complete the book. And obviously, like, it's a really, as a child, this is all you encompassing, like the idea of finishing your Panini sticker book. And me and a friend of mine, Mark, he was round and we were just hanging out and playing. And he went up the shop and he said, I might try and see if I can get some stickers. And he came back and I was like, oh, amazing, you got some stickers. Didn't know you had any money, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, no, I just took them. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, obviously thinking this isn't quite right. Normally I have to pay for stuff. I had but then the two of us kind of encouraged each other to go and, take some more stickers from the shop. Eventually we got caught because we weren't very intelligent thieves. We'd left a Hansel and Gretel paper trail of like stickers that we'd been like ripping up and putting in the book. Like we weren't very savvy thieves, and we got caught quite swiftly. I instantly felt a huge amount of regret and sorrow for doing something so horrible. And my dad went ballistic. He was like absolutely mortified, because we live in quite a small community, so it's like kind of like, you could tarnish our name and blah, blah, and he was local councillor and stuff. So I think he was just like, he was kind of thinking about himself in that instance a little bit, and not actually kind of digging into the reasons why I had done something like that. And he just went absolutely nuts, and I got properly bollocked, excuse my language. But then a few days later, I was hanging out with my nan. I used to go and stay with my nan at weekends and stuff. So my mum passed away at quite a young age. So we obviously with my dad in the week, but like weekends and stuff, we'd often go and stay with my nan so that, he would give a bit of time for himself. I remember she just took me she was cooking. She was like proper traditional nan. She's always baking and cooking dinners and like doing stuff in the kitchen and, just very house proud grandmother. And I remember she took me into the kitchen. She was doing some baking and stuff. And she just like took me aside. She put her arm around me, and she was making no moral judgment on what had happened or anything like that. She just wanted to ask me why. Like, why did you do it? Like, and I was like, I don't know. Like, it was an act of stupidity. It was a moment of madness, whatever you want to call it. And, all that kind of stuff. And I just remember just thinking, even at the time, oh, this is like a much better approach to like get me to like open up and, figure out why. Like, I was obviously acting out or feeling like I wasn't being seen at home and stuff. Like I say, like, being newly into a family with one parent, and later my dad had alcohol problems and stuff like that, so he wasn't around much. So there was all those kind of reasons. There was obviously lots of stuff going on, and it was just a moment of like I say, a moment of acting out and wanting to sort of, I don't know, maybe it was not a cry for help, that seems a bit extreme, but just like a moment where I wanted to sort of express myself and be seen. And she gave me that moment to be seen and heard. And as I go back to what I was saying earlier about what kindness means to me, being seen and heard, she gave me that moment of being seen and heard. And I always, I always said to myself, as I got to the point when I had my own children, like if those kind of moments ever happened, I hope that I had the same level of kind of empathy and compassion and just listen to why that thing happened. There was no judgment. There was no from her. It was just, she just wanted to get to the meat and potatoes of it, so we could like see if there was a way of helping me in some way. And I just always stayed with me. And I just remember always thinking that was like a kind of a beautiful moment between the two of us. And was always very grateful for that, and that she took a different route. And I just thought, that was like kind of good parenting.
Yeah. So would you say that was in character for your nan? Was that what she was like, and was that what you would have expected of her?
Well, yeah, totally. She was a very, very caring, empathetic, compassionate lady, and did do things like that quite regularly. So it was in character. But I think it's not until later, you sort of think, oh God, that was really impactful when she did that. It's obviously something that stayed with me. It's quite an irrelevant little moment in my life. Like, you know, I mean, obviously I never ever stole again, and I've never, you know, never done anything, you know, anywhere near criminal since. And maybe that was because of her impact on me with that moment.
Yeah. Do you remember how you felt in that moment when she took you aside? Because when you're a kid, you sort of don't really know what the adult's going to say. You're like, hello, what's this going on?
Yeah. Well, I thought, oh, okay, here's coming another roasting, right? Here's another like bollocking, but that just her putting her arm around me and like, hey, it's okay. like, it's not okay that you did that, but it's okay that you can talk about it and express yourself and say why, you know, what were the reasons behind it. So I felt loved. I felt like seen, like I say, seen and heard.
And how do you feel about that moment now when you think about it?
Oh, it makes me quite emotional. It definitely hits me in the feels, you know, like it's the sort of, and I say like, it's the sort of thing now having children. My boys are quite a lot older now, but like, I like to think that over the years when they've had moments where it might not necessarily be that they've been naughty, but like just being able to convey that level of like compassion and giving them that time and space to express themselves, wherever it might be. And I feel like we've both done that as parents. It, like I say, it has had that legacy. As
you grew up, did you ever get to say to her, oh, by the way, that moment meant a lot to me?
No, I didn't. Obviously you can have lots of regrets and stuff, but I wish I had been able to express that. Yeah,
that shouldn't be a regret. I was just
no, but yeah, it is one of those things where you say, "Oh, I wish I had sort of mentioned how much of an impact that had on me." Hopefully, she saw the fact that my behaviour was improved, and I never did anything like that again was enough to sort of. Or I guess I showed how much of an impact it had on me by being a better person and being a good person, and not doing that kind of stuff again was enough to sort of maybe show that did have an impact on me. I hope it did.
Do you have a sense of what might have happened differently if she hadn't?
I think probably the way it was handled, that situation was handled by my dad, would have made me feel insecure and difficult, and maybe I'm not saying I would have necessarily done anything like that again because of the visceral kind of way he acted and behaved towards me, but I definitely think it would have had more of an impact on me with regards to self-esteem, and like, would it have necessarily addressed the reasons why I was feeling the way I was at that time. And I didn't feel loved until my nan had spoken to me. Yeah. So I guess that's the big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, she sounds lovely.
She was.
Can you tell me about a time someone did something kind for you?
I always like it when people hold open doors. I know that's really like plain, but when people hold open a door for someone, it's kind of like, oh, that's so cute, you know? And when it's for me, I'll also hold open doors.
So that's like an everyday thing that just means a lot to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really, you appreciate it quite a bit, especially if it's someone you don't know. It's kind of like, oh, well, thank you.
Can you tell me about another time that someone did something kind for you?
Yeah, so I've been playing guitar since about the age of 16. I started playing guitar. Mm-hmm. And I was sort of self-taught. I was living at the time with my dad and his mother, who's my paternal grandmother, who we were talking about earlier was my maternal grandmother. And we lived, like, my dad had fallen on like financial problems, and we were basically living in a 1-bedroom flat. And I had to share a room with him, and it was just a horrible situation. Anyway, I'm at the age of like 17 at the time. And I used to do volunteer at a local youth club and stuff. So, and the people that ran it, they had a spare room. They just had an extension done on the house, and they had a spare room. So they let me move in. And at the time, like I was struggling academically, like I was not doing very well. I hadn't done very well in my GCSEs and I was going on to college. But I started learning the guitar and I was really passionate about like this. And I was like, I want to join a band and do all this other stuff. But they always sort of like, their whole kind of thing around like education and music and everything had been like academic. Like you need to go and get lessons and like learn grades and blah, 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 blah. And they were like, so for a gift, for a birthday gift, they were like, well, we've bought you 10 guitar lessons with the local guitar guru who lives, funny enough, actually lives around the corner from me now. And you can start to learn grades. And then, you know, this pursuit that this new passion you've got, you can turn it into if you want to turn it into a career, at least you'll have all the right qualifications kind of thing. Which is, you know, obviously it's very kind of them. But I was thinking, look, I've just failed with my GCSE. This isn't necessarily like why I started playing the guitar. I don't necessarily want to learn all great, like boring grades. I just want to learn like Nirvana songs and like be in a rock band. Anyway, I went and had these lessons. I wasn't keen on going, to be honest. I was just like, this is going to be so boring, like learning scales and like learning root notes and, I don't know, like pentatonics, whatever. Clearly I haven't still learned these things. So I went in, I was very nervous. This guy, Graham Tucker, his name is, a very, like sort of a bit of a legend around town. In the 60s, he'd like been in a band with Jimmy Page and like he'd done all these cool things. And now, yeah, him and his wife did a lot of music together locally and nationally, actually. And I was like, so I was quite intimidated to start with. It's like this old school rocker, Graham. Anyway, I sat down and he was like, he was kind of like, why are you here? Like, what do you want to get out of this kind of thing? And I was like, well, I've been told that like one of the reasons why these have been like bought for me, these lessons, is so that I can learn all these like scales and grades and stuff because blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, is that what you want to do though? Is that like what you want to get out of being a guitarist? And I was like, well, I guess so, because that's what I felt like I should say.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. He goes, well, why don't you just play a little bit? Let's just play a few things that you know. And he got a keyboard out, like a really long scale keyboard. And he was like, I'll just like, you know, well, I'll do some like bass lines and stuff. And then you can like, blah, blah, blah. Anyway. So we jammed for about, I don't know, like 10, 15 minutes. And he said, stop. And I was like, oh no, like, he's going to say, oh, you're really bad. Like, you're going to have to like, we're going to have to start from the beginning. And he was like, stop. So I stopped and he said, right, okay, forget the grades. We're not going to do grades. He goes, that's just not important. Like I can see that you're really passionate about playing and you've got a feel for the stuff. He goes, I was playing stuff here and you were doing some like 12-bar blues, like licks over the top and stuff. Like, that's really great. Like, there's just what we're going to do every week is you're going to come here and we're going to work on improvisation and blah blah blah. I was like, improvisation, what's that? And he was like, well, like, you know, we're just literally, you're just going to feel the music, hear the music, and just do whatever you think. And it doesn't matter if you hit a bum note or you go wrong. You said, we'll just go with it. Like, that's all part of like this. I feel like that's your guitar journey, blah blah blah. So every week for like 10 weeks, I would go around and he would tell me great stories about him playing in all these places in London and playing with Jimmy Page and all that stuff. And then we would just jam and he would play 12-bar blues and jazz and all sorts of stuff. And I would just play along and we'd just jam, the two of us. And it was amazing. Yeah. It was like just like made me realize why I wanted to play the guitar in the first place, you know, and it was just fun and great. And I finished the lessons and I actually did some, I ended up coughing up some money to do some more with him because I really wanted to do more because he was just great to be around and, you know, and just doing this was really fun. And, you know, obviously I had to keep going back going, yeah, it's going really well with the grades. Yeah, I'm going to be like I'm going to be grade 8. And in like, yeah, I've learned so much stuff. Graham's amazing. You know, obviously, little did I know, I was just like going and jamming with this old guy in his house. But yeah, so that it just taught me so much about like playing guitar. When I eventually joined a band and we, you know, knowing about improvisation and like being able to just like riff on something, or like, you know, like someone comes in with like a bass line or a drum beat or whatever, and being able to just cultivate a song organically from that, and being able to just like, you know, my old band, we used to jam a lot. Like as a like a kind of warm up, we would just like, someone would throw in a riff or a bass line or a drum beat, whatever, or the vocalist would sing something, a melody, and we would just like work on stuff. And that's how we would organically write stuff. It was like, I would never have got that if I'd learned like grades. I wouldn't have been able to have those, you know, wouldn't have had the confidence to express myself musically like that. And that's what Graham gave me. And to be honest, it wasn't just music that happened in, like just the idea in life of improvising. Sometimes we all need to improvise, and like it doesn't matter sometimes if, you know, you hit a bum note, like if something doesn't go quite to plan, like that's fine. Just, you know, the whole idea around, you know, failure, and like, you know, failure is good because you learn to grow from it. Like failing on a 12-bar blues riff, that, you know, if you hit the bum note, it doesn't matter. You can go back and you know that that's not the right note to hit. You can find another note that's better. You know, I feel like it's kind of stuck with me in other aspects of my life. You know, I know it's probably trying to shoehorn it in a little bit there, but it does feel like those lessons that Graham gave me about expressing myself and just going with it, and doesn't matter if you hit bum note, is like just something that I've stayed with me in all my creative life for sure, but also in life in general. You know, like, you know, life is ups and downs, and is a few bum notes sometimes, but you know, that doesn't matter. Like, you know, go on to the next thing. So it was a massively impactful thing. And I was really lucky because he lives around the corner from me. When we moved into the house we're in now, I think saw his wife, and they mentioned, you know, me, and Graham had remembered me, and I mean, I had like 20 lessons with him or something, and they invited me around for a cup of tea, and I went and you obviously were saying about my nan earlier, being able to sort of thank that person. We sat down and across here, and I just said, Graham, I just want to say thank you so much for teaching me about improvisation, because I said it as actually was life-changing for my music, but it was like this big thing. It had this massive impact on me, and it was so nice. Like, I mean, he's very elderly now, but you know, I could see him sort of smile and like think, you know, you know, I guess those moments when you're a teacher, you get those like moments of joy that, you know, you've actually imparted some amazing thing. He probably didn't think it was going to be that impactful, but obviously it was.
Yeah, I feel like, again, in some way or another, he's kind of seen you. He's, you know, you've come along, you've said grades. He's gone, this guy doesn't want to do grades.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like seen that. So what's Graham? Describe what Graham like looked like at the time. I want to picture him.
Okay, so balding, white beard, quite short, slightly round, very jolly face, like very smiley, always smiling. Just so much passion for music as well. Like, but not just, I mean, he was really into kind of, him and his wife kind of did music that was, I guess, slightly Carole King-esque, Carpenters, but he loved all kinds of music, and like I say, blues music and rock and jazz, and, you know, super talented individual. Like, I mean, just amazing. And he could play the trumpet and the piano, and he did piano lessons, he did trumpet lessons, he did guitar, like, obviously just music was his everything. So he was like, obviously I felt like I could, you know, obviously super trust his judgment on stuff as well. So it felt like it was an endorsement, you know, him saying, let's not do that. Let's not do that. Like, this isn't what you're meant to do. And I think, like you say, again, it's being seen and heard, isn't it? It's like, actually, although I was saying probably the things that I was supposed to say, like, oh yeah, I do definitely want to do grades, he could tell I didn't.
When did the couple who were paying for the lessons, when did they realise that you'd been jamming, not doing the grades?
Probably not for quite some time. I mean, by the time, I mean, I was obviously getting to quite a higher standard of playing.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, have you got any dates for your grades? Yeah, like, Well, actually, no. We've decided not to do that now. Had to sort of fess up a little bit. But by that time, I was in a band and we were gigging and touring the country by then. So I suppose it was okay to sort of, it's fine. What I've done is, what I've learned is work is paying off. So
yeah, exactly. At that stage, no one's going to go, but where's your certificate?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I winged it for quite some time, and then it was fine.
Yeah. So have you improvised with him since? When you pop round for a tea, have you decided to do a little jam set?
No, we haven't. I was hoping maybe like last time I went and saw him, but he's quite frail now, bless him. He is quite old. I don't know if he still plays. I hope he does. I haven't seen him for quite a while, but yeah, I'd love to have one more excuse me, one more jam with him would be great. Yeah.
I feel like as well, I don't know, this is probably a massive generalization, but a lot of musicians or people who have loved music who I've spoken to, as they've got older, like it never goes away. Something that, you always carry on in one way or another. You might drop off a little bit here, but then you get back into it. I feel like that love of music, that never really goes for people.
No, not at all. It's funny because I still play in a couple of bands and I still do music a lot, although obviously not professionally. But my we've just bought him an electric guitar because he started learning, and I just keep going in and taking his guitar and playing. And he's like, "Oh, can I have a go now?" No. I've got my own guitar, but like I'm like, oh, he's got a new guitar. Like it's just fun. And it's suddenly just rebooted me a little bit, and I've just been doing loads this last couple of weeks. Actually, just doing loads of music, so it doesn't ever go away, and it rears its head. I mean, I listen to music every day. I can't go a day without listening to music and stuff. So it is quite an integral part of me as a human.
Recent acts of kindness that I've received would definitely have to be, we moved house a couple of weeks ago, and as part of that, my parents and my sister were an enormous help. Also, the community in Brighton were incredible. We connected with a few people on Freecycle and Gumtree who very, very kindly gave us some furniture they didn't want anymore, completely free, and were very just really lovely about it, and we're really happy that it was going to a new home, and it really did kind of instill the whole community feeling of the area, which was just amazing.
And is there another story of kindness that you're happy to share with me?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is probably the first one that popped into my head because this family were wonderful, and obviously I talked to them about them earlier, and they did lots of kind things for me. But as I was saying, when I was about 17, I was living in this one bedroom flat. My dad, he had loads of debts, and like we were like just on the breadline for sure. And we were living in my nan's, his mum's. Like it was, I don't even know we were supposed to live there really. I think it was one of these residential flats. So I do remember when like there used to be like a person would come around and get the rent, like a rent collector. This sounds like we're from like the Dickens time. It wasn't that like long ago, but it was like, I mean, I guess it was the 90s, but even then anyway, they had this person that would come around, and we always used to have to like pretend we were visiting, or we weren't like there kind of thing. So I don't think we were supposed to be living there. But anyway, it wasn't an ideal situation, particularly as for a teenage boy. And my brother managed to move out, so it was just me, my dad, and my nan. Anyway, I used to go to this youth club. I used to help. I used to do like me and my friend Damien. We used to do like DJing, like at the youth club. So we had like these decks and like this massive speaker. Every week we used to get these huge speakers out. Some nuts, really, thinking about it. And for like an hour, and then we would like play music, and like everyone would be playing. I mean, there'd be people playing badminton, like with the background of like these like these speakers are huge, ridiculous, like 100-watt, like 200-watt speakers, like blasting out whatever 90s music was at the time, and people playing badminton in the background, table tennis.
I want to play badminton to a heavy bass now.
Yeah. It was like, you know, I don't know. You can imagine like Groovers in the Heart. I'm dating myself here, banging out Groovers in the Heart while someone's like playing badminton. It's weird, anyway. So we used to do that every week, and we loved it. And funny enough, Damien and I always said, "Oh, in 30 years' time, if we're both unemployed, let's start a DJing company, and we'll go and do weddings and like bar mitzvahs and stuff." That never happened. But anyway, the people that ran it were this lovely couple called Dave and Trish Robertson. And they were like quite intrinsically involved, knowing what was going on in various different people's lives. And they were just really, really lovely people that I'd known actually from quite a young age. They used to go to, there was a local church that I used to attend, and they were there as well. And their kids were like, their daughter was a similar age to me. And they had an extension done on our house, and they knew my situation, and they said, "Well, look, you can come, like, if it's going to make life easy for you, you can come and live with us, and you won't have to pay any rent, and blah, blah, blah." And I was at college at the time, and they were like, we can just, we can feed you and blah, blah, blah. And it was just this like unbelievable act of kindness, like to just take in this waif, this stray that they knew, and obviously I knew them really well. I'd known them for many years, and I knew that, and I knew, as I say, I was friends with their daughter, and their son was a bit younger, but and they just let me move in to their house, and I had this little room at the front of the house. And I remember the first night I was there, they were all saying goodnight to each other, like night Gemma, night James, night, and I remember thinking, it's like the Waltons. And I was sitting in the room, and I was like, "Night, John boy." Because it just felt like I was like, I don't recognize this. This isn't like normal. Like, I don't recognize this dynamic, like people saying goodnight to one another, and like it being being in a proper family, like a 2.4 family. Like I'd never had, for many, many years, had not had that situation. Like, say, my mum died when I was 6. Like my dad was like just never kind of around really very much. So, I spent time with my grandparents, but I just wasn't used to that dynamic at all. And it was quite strange for a while, like getting used to that, but then kind of understanding how a family works, and how, like no family's perfect, but like just knowing how that support network of of 2 parents, 2 children, and like learning how that is, and actually experiencing it, and actually feeling, I don't know, better about the future. Like I just imagined like my life was going to be out of control and difficult and challenging, but just being able to be in that environment of a normal family and learning what that was like was so impactful again. I'm eternally grateful, and we see them, regularly. When I got married, they were a big part of the, our lives then, and they still are. And they know my wife as well, because she used to go to the same youth club, and we've stayed, they still live locally, so, and they still live in the same house that I lived in, actually. And we see them quite regularly, and they've been a big part of like our family growing, and seeing how that's turned out. And I can't ever sort of thank them enough for what they did for me, because, they actually, again, they saw me, they saw like this lost person who was in a difficult situation, and they helped me and gave me stability, essentially, which is what I was craving at the time. And I learned what stability looked like, which was amazing.
Yeah. What did you first think when they offered you to join their family or come and live in their home?
I was a bit, obviously it was like kind of, I was thinking, oh God, can I, like first it's that kind of, I'm a terrible people pleaser. So it's like kind of like, oh, I don't want to, like that imposition, like I'm going to impose, like, is that's going to be, that kind of like, that's it. That sounds too generous. Like that's too much, like I could never repay you kind of thing. It's all those kind of thoughts, I suppose. Like that's, I'm not worthy of that level of kindness. I suppose was the first initial thoughts. Like a bit of in denial, like, oh, they can't, they must be just saying that. It was kind of so they're kind of weirded out in a way by it because of those kind of thoughts. But when I kind of came to, well, obviously they were very good about it and like didn't, there was no pressure, obviously. But just sort of like, this could be this could help you and help, also help the situation in general, like, with your dad and your nan. So yeah, so it just meant I could sort of see it as like a way of like, actually this would be best for everybody.
Yeah.
If I did this.
Yeah. And you said that it kind of showed you what family really means. What did you come out of that feeling like? Well, oh, this is what family means.
Well, I think just seeing like a regular family unit at work, how it plays out. And obviously, like I say, it's not perfect. Though you have to, you have your disagreements, and like they had teenage kids, so I was a teenager as well, and teenagers are inherently difficult to deal with at times, and so it's not like it was. I'm not saying it's like totally like a rosy, like everything was blissful, and it was most of the time, but like just seeing a normal family, like. But also seeing how a good unit works together and supports one another and communicates properly and deals with those difficult situations in the right way. And similar to like my nan putting her arm around me, like those kinds of situations where, if something's bad's happened, let's find out why and let's discuss it and communicate with one another. And I think that was essentially what I kind of got out of it, and how it is to parent, and how it is to be in that kind of. I'd never had that, so it was really, really eye opening.
Yeah, a massive change in your life, and I'd always when people do something that they don't have to do, you might see someone struggling, you're not obliged to step in and offer them anything, but to offer you something on that level is just like, I mean, for them, I'm sure it means a lot to them as well, that like that you said yes, that you were willing to take a chance on them and come and live with them. So like the both ways, I think it's just such an incredible thing to do.
Oh, it is, and like you say, kindness kind of works both ways, doesn't it? In a way, but yeah, and I hopefully it was good, and I know they've, to be honest, subsequently they've done that they had so my wife's little sister lived with them for a bit, and they did that for her, and they regularly have like foreign students come over and stay with them, and they still, even now they like even this summer they've had French students come and stay with them, and they take them out on day trips and stuff. It's just something they love doing. They love like supporting and helping and giving back to young people, and it's an amazing thing. So they're even still kind of doing it, and maybe it gave them that opportunity to like, extend what they used to do with youth work and have that impact on young people in a really positive way. Maybe I was the trial run for that in some ways, and that's great if that meant that they've I was like the litmus test for how that might look, going on term, because they're just really good people that want to do nice things for people.
And that youth club, that's got a lot to answer for. You found family and you found your wife. That seems pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It was, yeah, I know. It's funny, isn't it? How like the local youth club. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny because my wife's quite a lot younger than me. So when we were there, I was obviously a lot older than her. And then we kind of found each other later in life again. But obviously we knew all the same people and we were in the same environment for like every Monday it was. So, she was playing badminton while I was banging out tunes on the on the wheels of steel.
So she was the one who got to benefit from the beats while she played.
She did. Yeah. I don't know if it improved her game at all, but she got to enjoy some all sorts of funny things. And funny enough, yeah, I hadn't realised at the time, but she'd come to some of my early gigs as well when I started playing the bands. I had no idea. So a lot of those people there's very amazing little community of people went to that youth club.
Yeah.
They were very supportive of one another. So, and again, the Robertsons who took me in, that was all down to them really, that they cultivated a really lovely thing that people really benefited a lot from.
Yeah, it's incredible. On a slightly different note, I wondered what the kindest thing you've ever done for yourself is.
I have to admit, I'm not always very good at being kind to myself. I'm quite, I'm quite self-critical. I'm an overthinker. I'm a people pleaser. I'm all like kind of the worst character traits. I'm a ruminator. So I'm very sensitive to many like situations. Like I'll probably after this go away and think, oh, it's terrible on that podcast, and I've said all the wrong things, and I didn't say them in the right way, and Holly probably thinks I'm a complete idiot, and I said, oh God, so I'm terrible for that kind of stuff. So I guess on a low level, is stopping myself from doing those things. I've recently got more into doing like meditating and stuff, and I think the kindest thing I can do for myself sometimes because of all those things is giving myself a few minutes each day just to either ground myself or give myself just a second maybe, or a few minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes of time just to reflect and know where I've come from, where I am right now, what I'm grateful for. And I've started keeping a little journal as well, like just with it's got a few manifestations in it and a few things I'm grateful for and those kind of stuff. And I think those little habits forming, which I've done more recently, has kind of been one of the kindest things I've done for myself. Like, because I feel like it's now part of my routine to do those things. And it's just giving me a better perspective on everything in my life and who I am as a person, to hopefully going forward prevent me from finishing this podcast and thinking that it was terrible and that you're probably going to have to edit everything out.
Well, on this juncture, let me reassure you that in no way was it terrible. And in case it's useful to you, feel free to bin it if it's not. But one of the things that's helped me with a similar kind of rumination is someone telling me that thoughts like that, you can never, there's no value judgment to say if it's the truth or not the truth. So where your brain will allow you to replace it with a thought that would be more useful, because you also won't know that's the truth. So you might as well go away and think, I was absolutely fantastic on that podcast. I told those stories really brilliantly, because you don't have proof either way, and you'll never have proof either way, like really legitimately. So you might as well give yourself a thought that feels helpful, that feels useful, and that makes you feel good. So feel free to use that or bin that, depending on if it's useful. But it has been massively useful to me to just remember that, like, I'm not going to be able to prove most of these thoughts right and wrong, so I might as well choose a useful one.
Yeah, it's great advice. It really is. And for sure, like, I will definitely consider saying that to myself after this.
Well, Giles, it has been such a pleasure to chat to you. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. I think they're incredible. And I think you put a lot of kindness out in the world on social media. And it was part of the reason I wanted to talk to you, because I just felt like someone who puts so much kindness out into the world, like, you know, hopefully has some stories of people who have also been kind to them. So yeah, I just massively appreciate you sharing.
Oh, no, thanks, Holly. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. And yeah, thank you for letting me tell my little stories of kindness. And yeah, I really, really appreciate you asking me on.
Hey, hold on. I'll stay here till it goes.
Thank you so much for listening. You being here and your support means so much to me. If you also happen to have not the most complimentary inner monologue, I prescribe at least one I love you in the mirror to yourself a day. I don't care if you feel silly, you deserve that love, so say it with feeling. This episode is dedicated to anyone who's taken us in when we needed it. Maybe share the episode with one of those people in your life or someone else who might enjoy it. I would also love to hear a story from you about a time someone was kind to you. So send that in at kindpodcast.com or email me, holly@kindpodcast.com, and I will feature some of the stories on the show. If you like the show, hit subscribe, hit follow, give us a rating. It helps me a lot. It was great to spend time with you. Speak soon.
Dream on and let your heart unfold.